I didn't think twice when I unwrapped the gift. It was from my best friend, someone I trusted more than anyone. So when I pulled out this handcrafted wooden clock, heavy, polished, almost too perfect, I just smiled and said thanks. But here's the thing. That clock was watching me. Not metaphorically. Not in some creepy feeling way. I mean literally watching. And I didn't realize it until weeks later. At first, nothing felt off. I set it on the mantle, right in the center of my living room. It ticked softly. Looked beautiful. Guests complimented it. It blended in like it had always been there. But then, small things started happening. My friend would mention stuff I never told him. Conversations I had in private. Things I said when I was alone. Even a joke I muttered under my breath one night. He repeated it back to me days later like it was nothing. I laughed it off at first. Coincidence, right? Except it kept happening. And the details got too specific. That's when the feeling hit me. That quiet, crawling thought in the back of your mind that you try to ignore. What if someone's watching me? I told myself I was being paranoid. I even joked about it. But one night, everything changed. The clock made a sound it was never supposed to make. Not ticking. Not mechanical. Something else. Something electronic. And that's when I realized I wasn't imagining anything. So I grabbed a screwdriver and started taking it apart. What I found inside made my stomach drop. And I still haven't fully processed what it means. Because the camera wasn't the worst part. Not even close. Wait until you see what it was connected to. The back panel came off easier than it should have. That alone made my chest tighten. Because this wasn't just a clock anymore. It felt like something built to be opened. Like someone expected this moment to happen. Inside, at first glance, everything looked normal. Gears. Wiring. The usual mechanical stuff. But then I saw it. A tiny black dot tucked behind the center spindle. No bigger than a pinhead. And if I hadn't been looking for something wrong, I would have missed it completely. I leaned in closer. That's when it hit me. That wasn't a defect. That was a lens. A perfectly placed pinhole camera, aimed directly outward, covering my entire living room. My couch. My TV. My front door. Everything. I actually pulled my hand back like it might shock me. Because suddenly every moment I'd spent in that room started replaying in my head, but this time, from its perspective. And then I noticed something worse. It wasn't just a camera. There was a second board tucked deeper inside. Smaller. Sleeker. Way more modern than the rest of the clock. This thing didn't belong in something handmade. It had a micro antenna, a blinking light, and a slot for a memory card. I froze. Because that meant two things. One, it was recording. And two, it wasn't just storing footage. It was sending it somewhere. Right then, the blinking light flickered again. Not randomly, but in a pattern. Like it was active. Like it was connected right now. And that's when a thought hit me so hard it didn't even feel like my own. If this thing is transmitting, then someone could be watching me. Live. I turned around slowly, scanning my own house like it suddenly didn't belong to me anymore. And then I did the one thing I probably should have done first. I checked the signal. What showed up on my screen led straight to someone I knew. And I wish it didn't. I didn't want to believe it. I stared at my phone, refreshing the network list like it might magically change. But it didn't. There it was. A private connection. Hidden, but not that hidden. And the name attached to it? It wasn't random. It wasn't encrypted. It was familiar. Too familiar. It matched the name of a device I had seen before in my best friend's apartment. Same naming pattern. Same weird abbreviation he always used for his stuff. My stomach dropped. Because now this wasn't just a creepy discovery. This was personal. I clicked into the signal details. Strong connection. Low latency. Which meant one thing. Whoever set this up wasn't far away. Not across the city. Not even across town. Close. Close enough to stay connected without interruption. And suddenly, every memory with him started shifting. All those times he asked oddly specific questions. All those moments he just knew things. It wasn't intuition. It wasn't coincidence. It was surveillance. I felt this mix of anger and disbelief building in my chest. Because this wasn't some stranger. This was someone I'd known for years. Someone who had been in my house. Sat on my couch. Laughed with me. All while already knowing what went on there. But then something else hit me. Something worse. If the signal was still active, then he might still be connected. Right now, watching me discover everything. Watching my reaction. Watching me realize it was him. I slowly turned my head toward the clock sitting in pieces on the table. And for a second, I hesitated. Because if he was watching, then he already knew I found it. And that meant one thing. This wasn't over. Not even close. So I made a decision. I wasn't going to call him. Not yet. First, I needed proof. Real proof. Because what I found next inside that device completely shattered whatever doubt I had left. I slid the memory card out with shaking fingers. It was tiny, almost weightless. But whatever was on it felt heavy already. For a second, I just stared at it. Because once I opened those files, there was no going back. No, maybe I'm wrong. No benefit of the doubt. Just the truth. I grabbed my laptop, hesitated, then plugged it in. It loaded instantly. No password. No encryption. Like whoever set this up didn't think I'd ever find it. Folders popped up on the screen. Dozens of them. Each labeled by date. Weeks, stretching into months. My throat went dry. Because that meant this wasn't recent. This had been going on for a long time. Way longer than I wanted to believe. I clicked the first folder. Video files. Timestamps. I hovered over one, then hit play. And there I was. Sitting on my couch. Scrolling on my phone. Completely unaware. It was silent, but the angle was perfect. Centered. Stable. Deliberate. I skipped ahead. Another clip. Me pacing the room during a late-night call. Another. Me asleep on the couch with the TV still on. I slammed the laptop halfway shut, then forced myself to open it again. Because I needed to know how far this went. How much he had seen. How much he knew. I scrolled faster now. Dates blending together. Clips stacking on top of clips. Hundreds of hours. And then, I noticed something that made everything worse. Some of the files were marked. Starred. Separated from the rest. Like highlights. Like someone had gone through all of this. And picked out specific moments. I clicked one. The video loaded. And what I saw in that clip wasn't just invasive. It was targeted. Intentional. And suddenly this didn't feel like curiosity anymore. It felt like something else entirely. Something I hadn't even considered yet. Because whoever was watching me wasn't just watching. They were looking for something. And I was about to find out what. The starred clip started mid-conversation. I was on the phone. Pacing. Stressed. I remembered that night instantly. It was the call where I talked about money, about a deal I wasn't sure I should take. I never told anyone the details. Not even him. But in this video, every word was right there. Documented. Saved. Selected. I skipped to another starred file. This one was different. The camera angle hadn't changed, but I had. I was searching through a drawer, pulling out documents. My passport. Bank papers. Stuff I only ever touched when I was alone. And the clip didn't end there. It zoomed digitally. Not a natural zoom, post-processing. Someone had gone back and enhanced the footage, trying to read what was in my hands. That's when it clicked. This wasn't about curiosity. This wasn't about spying for fun. This was about information. Specific information. Private information. The kind you don't just stumble into. You hunt for it. My chest tightened. Because suddenly every starred clip followed the same pattern. Phone calls. Documents. Moments where I revealed something, even unintentionally. And then I saw the folder. It wasn't labeled with a date. It had a name. My name. I opened it. Inside were only a handful of videos. But they were longer. More focused. Like someone had already narrowed everything down and kept only what mattered most. I hovered over the first file. Something told me not to click it. But I did anyway. The video started. And within seconds, I stopped breathing. Because this wasn't just footage of me anymore. There was someone else in the frame. Someone who wasn't supposed to be there. Someone who had never been in my house. At least, not when I was awake. And that's when the entire situation shifted from betrayal to something far more dangerous. I replayed the clip. Once. Twice. 3 times. Hoping I was wrong. Hoping my brain was filling in something that wasn't actually there. But it wasn't. The figure moved again. Clearer this time. Not a shadow. Not a trick of the light. A person. In my house. While I was asleep on the couch, just a few feet away. I felt my pulse in my ears. Because the timestamp didn't lie. This wasn't months ago. This was recent. And suddenly, every safe memory I had in that space just collapsed. The person stepped closer into frame. Still partially obscured, but enough detail to see clothing. Height. Build. And then, they turned slightly. Just enough for the camera to catch their face. I froze. Because I recognized it. Not immediately. Not like a clear photo. But in that slow, creeping way your brain refuses to accept something. Until it has to. It was him. My best friend. In my house. Without me knowing. Watching me in person. I pushed the laptop back so hard it almost fell. Because this changed everything. The camera wasn't just for remote viewing. It was part of something bigger. Planning, timing, access. He hadn't just been observing my life. He'd been entering it. Physically. Without permission. Without a trace. And then another thought hit me. If he had already been inside, how many times had this happened? And more importantly, was he really the only one involved? Because the way he moved in that video, it didn't look like someone acting alone. It looked practiced, careful, like he knew exactly what he was doing, and exactly where to go. I slowly turned my head toward the front door. Locked. Chain still on. Everything looked normal. But it didn't feel normal anymore. Because now I knew something I couldn't unknow. Someone I trusted had been inside my house while I slept. And the worst part? I had no idea if he still had a way back in. I didn't sleep that night. Not even for a second. Every sound felt louder. Every shadow felt closer. And that clock, now in pieces on my table, still felt like it was watching me. So I did what I should have done immediately. I checked everything. Doors, windows, locks. Then I checked again. That's when I found it. The back door. The lock looked normal, but the alignment was off. Just slightly. Like it had been forced before and put back carefully. My chest tightened. Because that meant he didn't just have access once. He had a way in. A reliable way in. And I had never noticed. I stepped back, mind racing. Because now I wasn't just dealing with betrayal. I was dealing with a pattern. Surveillance. Entry. Collection. And possibly, something still in motion. So I grabbed my phone. Scrolled to his name. Hovered over it. Every instinct told me to call him. To demand answers. To end it right there. But something stopped me. Because if he had gone this far, then calling him would only warn him. And if I warned him, whatever this really was, he'd cover it up. Disappear. Or worse. Come back before I was ready. So instead, I called someone else. And what they told me after I explained everything is the reason I'm making this video. Because this wasn't just about a hidden camera. And it wasn't just about my best friend. There was something bigger going on. Something I was never supposed to find. And now that I have, I don't know if exposing it will protect me or make me the next target. So if you're watching this right now, look around your room. Seriously. Because I trusted someone completely. And that's exactly how this started. And if you think this can't happen to you, that's what I thought too. Until I realized I was never alone.